Texas markets itself as the cheapest big state in America. No income tax, low regulation, low cost of living, pro-business. That's the pitch on every relocation brochure, every CEO interview, every why we're moving to Texas headline for the last 20 years. But somebody has to pay for the version of Texas that gets advertised. Civil engineers grade the wastewater systems a D-. The grid is rated less secure than it was the night it killed at least 246 people. The state has the worst uninsured rate in America. 1 in 4 uninsured American children lives here. Texas did not lower the price of living. Instead, those costs are hidden, landing in the body counts, the boil water orders, the empty teacher jobs, and the prison guards working triple shifts. The cheap state is not cheap. It just sends the bill to people who cannot refuse it. You've heard the pitch. Maybe you've even repeated it. Texas hit 30 million people in 2023. Around 1,500 new residents arrive every single day. The Texas Triangle, which includes Houston, Dallas, and Fort Worth, San Antonio, and Austin, already holds 22.5 million people, and projections push that number to 31 million by 2040. CNBC keeps ranking the state in the top tier for business: Tesla, Oracle, Caterpillar. Corporate relocations get announced like sports trades, with press releases timed to embarrass California. Realtors film walkthroughs in Frisco and Round Rock, comparing the price per square foot to Brooklyn and Los Angeles, and the comparisons aren't lies. In 2024 alone, more than 550,000 Americans moved from another state to Texas. The pitch is simple: no state income tax, cheap land, cheap permits, light regulation. A state government that takes the phrase "open for business" seriously enough to print it on highway signs. It's the most successful relocation campaign in American economic history, and it's been running, mostly unchallenged, for 2 decades. But here's the thing about a pitch: the pitch is real, the price tag isn't. The 4 minutes that almost ended it. In February 2021, the cheapest big state in America found out exactly what it had been deferring. Winter Storm Uri slammed across Texas with temperatures the grid had never been designed to handle. Power plants tripped offline, wind turbines froze, natural gas wellheads iced over. Within hours, ERCOT, the agency that runs the state's isolated power grid, was watching the entire system slide toward catastrophic failure in real time. At the peak of the disaster, around 4.5 million customers had no electricity. Some lost power for hours, others lost it for days. In San Antonio, fire hydrants froze solid, and firefighters had to truck water in to fight house fires that started when residents lit grills indoors trying to stay warm. Pipes burst inside empty homes while plumbers from neighboring states sat at the border, locked out by Texas licensing rules even as houses flooded from the inside out. People died in their bedrooms. Children died in mobile homes. By the time the official count was finalized, at least 246 Texans were dead, and independent estimates put the real number well above 700. ERCOT eventually admitted the grid had been 4 minutes and 37 seconds from a cascading failure that could have taken weeks to repair, possibly months. The kind of collapse where transformers physically explode and have to be replaced one by one, with new units that take a year to manufacture. Texas was not 4 hours from disaster. It was 4 minutes and 37 seconds away. And here is why that matters. ERCOT exists in the form it does on purpose. It was designed as a near-isolated grid with light regulation, deliberately separated from the eastern and western interconnections so it would not fall under federal oversight. The point was cheap power in competitive markets. For decades, the design worked beautifully. Power was cheaper in Texas than in almost any other large state, right up until the night it was not. From 2000 to 2023, Texas absorbed 210 weather-related outages, more than any other state in the country. ERCOT's own analysis says there is roughly an 80% chance of rolling blackouts the next time a storm the size of Uri hits. The grid is less secure today than it was the night it killed people. So if you are watching this and asking why nobody fixed it, that is the question this whole video is built around. And if you want the answer, hit subscribe, because the grid is just the first line item. The trick hidden inside the brochure. The grid wasn't a freak accident. It was the pricing model showing its work. The cheap state pitch isn't a marketing trick. It's an actual economic structure. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Low taxes mean low public investment. Light regulation means private operators don't have to spend money on resilience. An isolated grid means no federal interconnection costs. A weak permitting system means cheap construction that doesn't account for 100-year storms. Each savings in the brochure is a deferred bill, a cost that exists, that has to be paid eventually, but that doesn't appear on the line item where the customer can see it. Texas isn't lying about the price, it's just not itemizing what's not included. And what's not included is the rest of this video: concrete, asphalt, and the $740 billion problem. If you want to see what gets cut when nobody itemizes, look at what the state is built out of. The American Society of Civil Engineers releases an infrastructure report card every few years, grading the systems that hold the country together. Texas's 2025 report card came back with an overall grade of C, middle of the pack, mostly because the strong categories drag the average up. Pull the categories apart and the picture changes fast. Wastewater, D-, levees, D-, drinking water, D+, dams, D+, broadband, D+, transit, D+. The system that flushes a Houston toilet, the system that keeps a Galveston neighborhood from disappearing during a storm surge, the pipes carrying drinking water to 4 million people in San Antonio, all of it sitting at the bottom of the grading scale. The freeway backlog alone runs to roughly $740 billion in needed work through 2050. Interstate 45, the main artery between Houston and Dallas, needs $7.2 billion in repairs just to get back to functional. The Houston to Dallas-Fort Worth freight corridor moves around 9,000 trucks a day on roads that were never designed for that volume. On top of all of it, the state has to absorb roughly 220,000 new housing units of demand every year, none of which the cheap state pricing model paid for in advance. The wastewater grade isn't an abstraction either. Houston has issued multiple citywide boil water notices in recent years, the fourth largest city in America, telling more than 2 million residents to boil tap water before drinking it, because the pipes can't be trusted to deliver clean water on a normal Tuesday. The state averages thousands of water main breaks a year. In some neighborhoods, the same line breaks twice in the same month. The drinking water grade isn't a future risk. It's a description of what's already happening. Concrete and asphalt are the easy line items, though. The receipt has line items that are made of people. The systems made of people are in worse shape than the systems made of concrete. Start with the schools. By the 2024 to 2025 school year, Texas had over 50,000 unfilled teaching positions and more than 35,000 uncertified teachers running classrooms because the state could not find anyone qualified to take the job. Texas teacher pay sits roughly $8,800 below the national average. Almost 70% of Texas teachers surveyed said they had thought about quitting. Teacher attrition climbed from around 9% before the pandemic to 13.4% after it, which means in some districts, more than 1 in 8 teachers walks out the door every year, and the kids show up in September to a substitute who is not certified to teach the subject on the syllabus. Now the prisons. Some Texas prisons are operating with up to 70% of their guard positions unfilled. Over the last decade, the state hired 74,000 correctional officers and lost 72,000, a turnover rate so close to total replacement that the system is essentially running on a treadmill. 2/3 of Texas prison beds have no air conditioning. None. In a state where summer temperatures regularly clear 105 degrees, 2/3 of incarcerated Texans sleep in concrete boxes with no climate control at all. Outdated record keeping was a contributing factor in 34 wrongful releases over the same decade. People walked out the front gate who were not supposed to. Then healthcare, which is the line item that anchors the entire video. Texas has the worst uninsured rate in the country, 21.6% of working age adults, 13.6% of children, roughly 5.1 million people without coverage. Border metros like McAllen and Laredo push close to 30% uninsured. 19 of the 20 U.S. counties with the worst health coverage in the entire country are in Texas. And here is the line that should make every viewer stop scrolling. Roughly 1 in 4 uninsured American children lives in this single state. Read that again. Out of every 4 uninsured kids in America, 1 of them lives in Texas. Under the cheap state pricing model, none of these are system failures. They are costs charged directly to the people with the least leverage to refuse the charge. Teachers absorb the bill in stress and burnout. Prison guards absorb it in violence and forced overtime. Uninsured Texans absorb it in delayed care, medical debt, and shorter lives. Kids absorb it in classrooms run by adults with no certification to teach. The cheap state pitch works because the costs are charged to people who can't say no. None of this is hidden. Every number above is public. So why doesn't the pricing change? The loop that won't let itself break. Here's the part that makes Texas different from any other state running this kind of pricing model. The cheap state pitch is what attracts the next 1,500 new residents per day. The new residents arrive because the brochure said the state was cheap, and once they're there, they validate the pitch by their own existence. Their presence makes the pricing model politically untouchable, because raising the advertised price now would mean breaking the promise that brought them. The longer the model runs, the bigger the deferred bill grows, and the harder it becomes to raise taxes or regulate the grid or expand Medicaid without admitting the previous pitch was incomplete. The model isn't broken. That's the disorienting part. It's a perfectly closed loop. The costs accumulate off the books. The population keeps growing, the state keeps topping the rankings, and the bill keeps printing in a back room nobody is required to look at. Other states have shown the playbook works in the other direction. Medicaid expansion in peer states cut uninsured rates by double digits. Grid winterization in cold climate states like Minnesota and Iowa keeps the lights on through worse weather than Uri ever brought. Teacher pay raises in states like Mississippi outpaced Texas in recent years. Texas keeps choosing the loop. And the off-book costs are about to face a stress test the pricing model was never built to handle. The University of Texas at Austin runs a long-term climate research program called Planet Texas 2050, and the projections are not subtle. More hurricanes the scale of Harvey, more multi-year droughts, more 110-degree heat waves stretching deeper into spring and later into fall. All of it arriving precisely as the state's population peaks and its infrastructure ages out at the same time. Texas already absorbs more weather-driven outages than any other state. The same systems graded D- on a calm day are about to face the worst weather in modern Texas history. 2/3 of prisons are without air conditioning, sitting through summers that climate models say will run hotter and longer with every passing decade. Coastal levees graded D- before the next Harvey-sized storm hits Galveston Bay, where the coast has been overbuilt for 2 decades on the assumption that the next big one would come on schedule. A grid that ERCOT itself says has roughly an 80% chance of rolling blackouts on the next Uri. Harvey is worth pausing on because Harvey is the template for what is coming. The 2017 storm dumped more than 50 inches of rain on Houston in 4 days. It was a continental record, not just a regional one. Neighborhoods that had not flooded in living memory ended up underwater, partly because developers had been allowed to pave over the bayou floodplains that the original survey maps said to leave alone. Cheap permits, light regulation, fast growth. The same pricing model that keeps the brochure cheap is what put houses in the path of the water in the first place. Each stress event does something specific to a deferred cost balance sheet. It forces a chunk of the bill to come due all at once instead of being spread across decades. The slow bleed becomes a sudden hemorrhage. The structural costs that had been quietly absorbed by the people with the least leverage start landing as visible, expensive public emergencies that even the brochure cannot hide. The bill that accumulated in slow motion is about to get charged in lump sums. Pay on purpose or pay on impact. There are two paths from here, and the state will end up on one of them, whether it chooses or not. Path one is to pay the bill on purpose. Raise taxes, expand Medicaid, regulate and winterize the grid, fund the schools, pay the teachers, cool the prisons, build levees that can actually hold back a storm on the scale of Harvey. The political resistance in Texas to all of that is real, but it is not eternal. Other states have done versions of every item on that list, and the data from those states says the playbook works. Path 2 is to keep deferring. The cheap state model holds. Growth continues. The costs get absorbed as ambient hardship, Texas-sized adversity that gets framed as character building rather than systems failure. The gap between the advertised state and the lived state keeps widening until a stress event, a grid collapse, a Harvey striking, an overbuilt coast, or a prison crisis in a record summer forces a lump sum payment. Either way, the bill gets paid. The only real question is who pays it and on what schedule. The state that prides itself on financial discipline is currently running the largest deferred cost balance in the country. Until the choice is made, the receipt keeps printing. The bill totaled. So go back to the relocation billboard, move to Texas, no state income tax, low cost of living, top state for business. Hold that image for a second and then look at what the brochure left out. 246 Texans dead in a freeze that ERCOT had been warned about for a decade, 5.1 million people without health insurance, 35,000 uncertified teachers in classrooms. Prison guard vacancies running up to 70% in some facilities, $740 billion in deferred road repair, 2/3 of prisons baking through summer without air conditioning, the worst uninsured rate in America. 1 in 4 uninsured American children, and a grid that was 4 minutes and 37 seconds from a months-long collapse, rated less secure today than the night it killed people. That's the receipt. That's the actual cost of the version of Texas that gets advertised. Texas didn't lower the cost of living. It hid where the costs land, and the bill is still being itemized. If you want to keep watching how geography and structure decide where Americans thrive and where they break, check out one of the videos on the end screen. Subscribe to the channel.